How are you, Dr. Stem?
Right now, if you may allow me, I wanted to start this with a meditation. That way we can just get centered, because now I know for me, my nerves were like all over the place because I couldn't find this thing. So if you don't mind, it's a quick, breathing exercise that we'll do. And, anybody who's watching can also do it with us. And what we'll do is when I say breathe in, we're going to breathe in through the nose with our mouth, closed. And then when I say breathe out, I want you to breathe out like slowly, as if, when you're driving and you run over a car and then, a nail, and it goes. So even the breathe in, it has to be very soft and breathe out. And I'll do one for an example, but then, we'll do 3 of those. And after 3, we should be able to roll, because I know my nerves are like, ah!
We need it.
Okay. So I'm going to do an example, right? A sample. So closing the eyes is always a good thing, because then it shuts out all the distractions. And then we breathe in and breathe out. Okay, so we're going to do 3 of those, and I'll guide you. And I suggest that we close our eyes, because it's much, better when we don't have distractions that we're seeing. Okay, we're going to begin. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. We're going to do one more. Breathe in and breathe out. Okay, may open your eyes. Hello, ladies.
Hello, how are you?
Now I am okay.
Thank you so much.
We definitely need that.
I feel like we need to implement meditation in every time before we begin a session, because we're rushing from work and this and that is happening and everyone is flustered. I feel like you will just set the tone.
Oh, yes.
It's really a good way of starting, because then I knew that when I started, because I shared with my sisters and they're all over in this space, so they're text messaging on the phone. How come there's nobody? It's already 7:30, 7:31, and I'm trying to log on the computer, and then I go on the phone. I'm like, I don't know, I can't see them. They're not live. And then when you guys went live, guess who saw you first? They did. So where are you? We're already here. I said, okay, I need to breathe.
We made it.
We
made it.
We made it. Thank you so much. We just want to do a little quick introduction and get our housekeeping stuff out of the way. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. My name is Tina, co-host, and co-founder is Dr. Taffy. Just so everyone can always keep up with us, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then also like our page and follow. As you know, we'd already begun a little bit. We have Dr. Stem tonight, who is a life coach, practices holistic mental health, and a plethora of other things. So Dr. Stem, if you don't mind just introducing yourself a little bit more and give it a little bit more depth, and who you are, how you began, a little bit of background from maybe the earlier years before now.
Oh, wow. You have the whole night? I know I don't.
No.
The full name, I go by Dr. Stem, as they say in America, aka Dr. Stem. By my full name is Stembile Matlatine. Originally from Zimbabwe, born and raised in Harare, but grew up in Kambuzuma in Zimbabwe and came to the United States. This is 37 years now this year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I have been in private practice for the last 25 years as a mental health professional. So I'm a licensed psychotherapist. And as you mentioned, I'm also a life, career, and business coach, which makes the holistic services. I also just recently, the last 4 years, have been running the Bounce Back empowerment conferences, because when COVID hit, I knew that we needed something to remind us that those of us who will survive, because it wasn't apparent that we were going to make it on the other side. There was another side. So I came up with the Bounce Back Empowerment Conference to say, you know what, for some reason, let's look forward. If we survive, at least we are prepared to start life again on the other end. So I run an annual Bounce Back Empowerment Conference that we started off doing online for the last 3 years. And then last year, we did it live in person for the first time right here in Orlando, Florida. And it was so surreal to meet everybody that has been following it, for the last 3 years. So this year we'll be doing the year 5 on Bounce Back Empowerment Conference, and we're going to be in Boston, Massachusetts, where the rest of the clan, of the Maslatini clan, my sister's mother, and everybody there in Boston. So I'm over there in Boston for those, that can. And the other thing that I started last year was I also started a Bounce Back book anthology, because all the speakers and, people that have been attending, their stories of even just surviving the bounce back or surviving life in itself were so powerful. And I just didn't want them to just go without notice. So because I'm an author of over 45 books, I decided, let me go ahead and put together an anthology and ask women to submit a chapter so that we can put a bounce back book together. So the first one, which became a bestseller, last year, is Bounce Back: From Setbacks to Comebacks.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yes.
So now this year, all the ladies and people that came to the conference said, well, we want men to write chapters as well. So I want to invite the men to also come in and write their own chapters on Bounce Back 2 book that we'll be writing, this year. So that's just a gist of, the things that I do for now.
Okay. So when does the Bounce Back happen? What month of the year do you host it?
So we have been hosting it in December, for the last 4 years. But because we're going to Boston this year, it's going to be at the end of September, because a lot of people say they're traveling, and there are people that go out of the country, like us Zimbabweans. There are now Zimbabweans that go home and stuff. So a lot of people were saying there's a lot happening in December. Can we do it earlier in the year? So, it looks like we're going to move it to September, as of this year. And then, going forth, it's going to be in September.
And it's cold in December, Dr. Stem.
No, but no.
Boston in December.
You're right. Well, Boston, but then remember now, I'm in Orlando, Florida, so sunshine, water, and we're never that cold. We're going to Boston. Everybody was like, "No, let's do it." So yeah, we're gonna do it in September so that it's nice, hot, and people can enjoy Boston.
Yes. September sounds good. I'm sure you'll see Zim Ladies Roundtable there as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to, we definitely need to make that happen.
Yeah, that would be such an honor to have you guys over there. That would be such an honor. I would love to, to have you guys over there.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So I want to know why did you get into this field? How did you become a psychotherapist?
So mental health. Psychotherapist is mental health. Honest with you, there are certain things where you get, into a field or a profession, without even knowing it. So when I came to the United States, I came in to go to school for computer science, because in the 80s when I came, it was all about computers, and you wanted to get paid more money, and you wanted to come back home to Zimbabwe and, you know, be a computer analyst or a computer programmer. And as you can tell, I was struggling just to get, you know, hooked up to, you know, this. So I'm not a computer person at all. So what happened
Almost
was,
made it.
yeah. So what happened was I was in school in Boston, Massachusetts at UMass Boston. And my professor, one of the professors, I took a sociology class. And he asked me and he said, you know, what are you doing, you know, as your degree? And I said, well, I'm taking computer science. And he says, why did you take this sociology? I said, I don't know. I just wanted to see. He's like, why don't you also, you know, start taking more of these classes and see maybe it might be, you know, better for you to change your degree. But then I said, I don't know, because then my parents were paying for the school at that time, and they wanted me to do computers, and that's part of, you know, what we'll discuss. Talk about mental health. You know, they tell you need to do this, you have to do that, because you're paying the money, so you have to do what they're asking you to do. So I couldn't change that time. But then I was working in a nursing home as a nurse's aide, and in that job, I met an elderly lady that came into the nursing home, and I helped her, you know, come into the nursing home. I wrote about this story in one of my books that says it's time to shift from fear to faith. But, you know, short story, long story short, that's how you say it, right? Then he said to me, honey, what are you doing in school? You know, I love your accent. I said, ma'am, I'm doing computer science. And she says, no. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. And I said, what am I supposed to be doing? She says, you're a social worker. Because you received me here, you've been working with me, you come to check me every day, you talk to my family, and you made me feel comfortable. That's social work. And, you know, you might want to look at it as social work. And I say to her, well, you know, so how do I get into that? She says, well, ask the social worker here. I said, there's a social worker here. It was in the nursing home, right? She said, yeah, there's a social worker here. And I said, who is that? And she says, the lady that wears the suits and the high heels, you know, you've never seen her, that walks in the hall. I said, that one? She doesn't even say hi to anyone or anything, you know, because I mean, she was all like, you know, and not wanting to be discriminating or anything, but, you know, she was a Caucasian lady, and she always used to just come all dressed up this year, and we were like the cleaning people, the nurses' aides, right? So I said, okay, I'll go and talk to her. So I went to talk to her, and she said, well, it's a very difficult profession to get to and everything, but I'm Zimbabwean, so you don't tell me that anything is difficult, right? Because then if I could get to America, that was the difficult part of coming to
That's true.
Anything else, I don't care who is doing it, I am going to do it. This is me telling myself in my mind, right? That self-talk. So needless to say, she said, no, you can't do it. And I said, ma'am, tell me the schools where I can apply and get more information. She said names, and she said, but I went, and I said, where did you go? She said, I went to Boston University, and that's, you know, difficult because then you have to have been working and experience and everything. So the rest is history. You know where I graduated from, right?
Boston University.
Thank you.
And that's what happens a lot of times in life. You encounter people who want to shift your destiny. It doesn't make sense. The naysayers and people who are like, no, you can't do it. You're African. You're this and you're that, or how are you going to pay for it? And sometimes it's even ourselves. And that's why, you know, mental health and self-care is key.
Yes.
Because that you need that positive self-talk in order to be able to conquer whatever it is that you're dealing with. Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, just to get into that, right? Because when you say mental health, you know, especially traditionally, when we talk about mental health, it's one of those things that says, oh, no. We are African. We don't deal with mental health. All this,
yeah.
You know, just the word mental health, you know, is like, no, that's taboo, right? And, you know, little do we know that mental health is literally about the way we think, the way we feel, and the way that we talk to ourselves, the experiences that we experience in our life, how that affects us, and also, you know, the choices that we make on a day-to-day basis on, you know, the life that we lead, that's all encompasses into mental health. So when we really want to talk about it, one of my sisters, you know, she sells clothing, and she has t-shirts, and one of the t-shirts says we all have issues. And that is the description of there is nobody that goes through life without mental health or struggling with mental health. We all do. And it's very important that we do take care of ourselves, as you mentioned, with the self-care, because mental health is for everyone.
I absolutely agree with that, Dr. Stem. My question to you is, before, well, not even before you became a psychotherapist, have you been in therapy yourself?
I am still in therapy myself. And the reason why I am in therapy is because I do believe, you know, that, as I said, we all have issues, but we all have life experiences, and we all are living day to day. You see how I came on and I said, oh, my anxiety was just like, oh. So a therapist that has not experienced or dealt with their own issues, I just feel like they're not going to be the most valuable therapist. I'd rather work with someone who's also working in their life, because then when we work with people, I don't have all the answers. So I'm almost like that you're running through talking about what's going on in your life, and we have a conversation, and in that conversation it's supposed to and hopefully enlighten you to think of your life in a different way, to receive treatment that is warranted, you know, to you. And without having gone through the therapy myself and experienced it myself, I don't think I would have been as effective as I've been for the last 25 years. So the answer is
that's very true. And you know, like you were saying, it's taboo, right? With, as far as, you know, especially Zimbabweans, or must I say Africans, really, going to therapy is such a, and you know, we've talked about this on Zim Ladies Roundtable before, that a lot of people think that for you to go to therapy or seek therapy, it's because you're crazy.
Yep.
And that's the comment that I'm reading right now as well. A lot of people think having a therapist means you're crazy. Let's normalize getting therapists. But how do you reach people and, you know, maybe not convince them,
yes.
but, you know, help them realize the importance of seeking therapy?
I actually am convincing them. And I've been trying to do that probably, I think for the first 5 years, I struggled with it because I saw how effective it was with the other races and other people, right? And my heart's desire was for people that look like me to also experience it and to believe in it, right? So, you know, the one thing that I started doing is I started writing books. And my first book was because of my own struggles acclimating to the United States. So I wrote The Power of Prayer. As you too might, you know, also understand, is we are raised in the church. We are raised, you know, with prayer and praying. So when I was, you know, coming here, I was told, go in the church because that's where you're going, that will welcome you, embrace you. And it was true because that worked. But then when I was struggling in the school now, and, you know, also trying to find work and trying to support myself, you know, I found myself, you know, going back into the prayer, and I wrote The Power of Prayer. When I wrote The Power of Prayer, it was an access that allowed me to go into the churches, into the organizations, and talking to people, because now I was holding this little book that I knew that many people would open their hearts and open up, you know, for me to go in and speak to them. And as I spoke to them, right, and talked about the struggles that we all go through, whether it's individual struggles, family struggles, raising children, in marriages, you know, say, wait a minute. So you mean I can come and talk to you about those struggles, and I can talk about the children, the way that I'm struggling with raising the children? And the answer was yes, you can. I go at the airport and I sit at the airport and I'm just like, you know, looking at the newspaper, reading my own book, and somebody sits next to me and they start saying, and I say good morning or good afternoon, and they say, oh, hi, how are you? I said, well, it's a good day. You know, I hope you're having a good day. Oh, child, no, not really. I just left this one in the hospital, and my mother is in the hospital, and I just lost a brother, and they just start talking, right? And I everything down and I listen. I'm at the airport. I'm just standing at the airport. But the thing that I say is, God, I don't believe you're doing this, you know, that working whilst I'm sitting here. So I listen, and then I say to the person before we got off, I said, you know, have you ever thought about talking to a therapist so that you can get more released? Because then they say, oh, this felt so good. Thank you for listening to me. And I say, have you ever, you know, talked to anybody and just go in for therapy and talk to a counselor? They say, oh, no. I don't talk to therapists, you know. Then I bring out my card. It's my card. I said, you just had your first session. And if this was a good session, ma'am or sir, you will enjoy speaking to someone, because this is what we do. And that's, oh, you didn't tell me that. No, I couldn't tell you, because my role was just to be here to listen to you and to support the moment. And I knew that the minute I flash my card or I tell you what I do, you would not say anything. You would just go like, therapist, you see. So that's one way. I'm a motivational speaker, and I'm also an author. And part of that is, that's my ticket to come and normalize therapy. Because if you listen to me, if you can attend any of my conferences, if you can invite me to come and speak at your conference, church, or program like you guys have done here today, my hope is that people will normalize talking to someone rather than, you know, struggling in a silence, because we've lost many people to suicide.
Yes.
And people being isolated. And it's not something that we need to continue. You know, let's make it a normal process to seek this for our men, our women, our children, and all of us, because then all can use talking to someone.
Yeah.
Right.
That is very heavy. It's very heavy, because we have lost, and a lot of people, it's not just even the physical act of taking their own life. Every day they're taking their own life with alcohol, with drugs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
Yeah. So even, you know, I mean, with alcohol, remember when we grew up in Zimbabwe, especially, you know, we can talk about our country, but then, you know, a lot of people drink alcohol, and it was normal to be just drinking, right? But then, you know, nobody could get to that point where now you're an alcoholic, because then, you know, in Shona times, chidakwa, but chidakwa means you're alcoholic because it means you're drinking too much, right?
Right.
That is very true. Just to go back a little bit, when you decided that, you know what, I was going to leave computer science, and now I'm shifting, I'm going to go be a social worker. How did you have that conversation with your parents? Because obviously the finances were going to have to shift. How did you discuss that with them in order to get to the point that you are? Because obviously you're a success. And when your mom looks at everything that you have accomplished, now she can say, you know what? That lady was right back then. Now look at her. And how did you get to that point?
It was really a blessing, because then I just made the phone call and spoke to them on the phone and said, I am changing because I met this lady, and I also talked to the professor at school, and they said I'll be good at talking to people and counseling people and helping people. And that's something that I think, you know, I want to do. And my father said, I knew it, that you are a person that loves to talk, and people talk to you even when you were young over here. So I think it's a good thing for you to go through and do that. So to many a time, right, we are always so scared to tell someone something, to ask something, you know, that we in need, because we are afraid that they might say no, or that what would they think. And yet when we do have the courage to say something, it's amazing. It's like So why was I afraid? What was I scared of? And that's how I felt after I spoke to them. But they said, yes, you can go ahead and do that. Funny enough, when I graduated and I decided I was also going to be a speaker, I now also had to talk to them and said, well, I also want to do motivational speaking and go on stages and speak. And they're like, doing what? What would you do that for? They wouldn't pay you for that. And they, we went back and forth like, but that's not a profession to just speak and go to talk to people and everything. Until I started traveling with my mother. We've been to the UK, we've been, to South Africa, we've been to places, and every time she sits there and she, is in awe and said, oh my God, this actually is something, because people are actually listening and she's actually, speaking. Then she understood it. But I always say, because they used to tell me that I'm talkative. Remember that word, talkative? You're talkative when I was growing up, right?
I'm gonna tell you something.
For that talkativeness. So saying that is, whatever you do and that you're good at, and that people always say, smart. Maybe that's something that you can teach other people to be clean and smart. And and that's where we find our passion and it, from doing things that other people say you're good at. Maybe you cook a meal that you cook, and people are like, I've eaten nyamane somewhere, but yours is the best. I've never had it taste this way. Whatever you do, teach other people that, because that could be your passion.
I love that. And I went through the same thing. I actually wanted to get into IT, into computer sciences and all of that, but because my brother had already done that, my parents are like, oh, why? You're just trying to do what your brother was doing and this and that, and they convinced me to follow a different path, right? So so I know there's people who are going through the exact same thing right now today, and yet they know this is my passion, this is what I want to do, but the parents are the ones with the pockets, right?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give students who have a path that they want to follow, but they have to have that conversation with their parents?
So it's good to have the conversation with the parents, right? But then at the same time, let's not also be amiss and advise them to say, well, just stick to what you want and tell them this is what I want. And then they stop writing the check, and then you don't have the financial aid and you don't have any way of going to school, right?
And they start calling Dr. STEM.
Yeah, so we don't want to do that at the same time, but then, have the conversation. And also have an advisor, from the college that you're going to, that can also call and talk to them to explain what is going on, or maybe even write a letter, and if somebody wants to do what I'm doing, certainly call me and I can talk to your parents about it, because then once they, see what I have done, being a professional and a counselor and a speaker, they're going to be like, oh, okay. Okay, I guess if she could do it this way, then maybe, because then sometimes they say no because they've never seen it and they don't know how, and they don't know if there are any people that have been successful at what it is that you're doing, right? So I would suggest that one, they speak to their parents. They also ask other people that can, speak on their behalf, and especially that are doing the same thing that they want to do. Right. So even as students, I always advise students that if you're in college and you're going and pursuing a degree, find a mentor that you can talk to that is already in the profession, that can also guide you in doing so. Drop out, or you don't get discouraged, because then many people will see, I've been in the field for 25 years, I've written all these books, and I'm enjoying traveling and I enjoy doing what I do, but then it was hard work. And I couldn't and didn't give up, right? So without that mentorship or talking to someone, sometimes it becomes, difficult. And then another way is, if the parents are stuck on, no, I want you to do computer science, and that's what I'm going to pay for, I'm not paying for anything else, Do not be disheartened. Go through with that,
Mm-hmm.
finish that degree, and find work using that degree. Because when you do now work in that field, and now you can pay for yourself, you have time of having to go back and now doing what it is that you desire. So there are always many options rather than getting stuck with one way of doing things and this is what I want or they need to do it this way. Again, we're talking about mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being able to maneuver and see different options of doing things and not, getting stuck with only just this is the way that I want it and it's going to happen in this way. We have that raised us and that still think in one way because they were not exposed to anything else. They've been exposed to, we can't blame them, right? For
Very true.
yeah.
And it's very true. Thankfully, fortunately, we were raised, I know for Taffy and I, we were raised by parents who supported what we wanted to do for the most part. I know for like my mom, even now, I have things that I do with my mom. I just have to explain that, I want to do A, B, and C. And she'll be like, okay, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
And then next time when I talk to her, she's already found a solution. Maybe if you do it this way, this way, this way, this way. She's helping whatever my desires grow.
Yes.
But I did have another question. When it comes to picking a therapist, because sometimes you might run into therapists who project. How do you eliminate those situations where you get a therapist that's going to be good for whether, I know, especially for Black people, sometimes going to Caucasian individuals might not be a good thing because they might not be able to relate. So how do you kind of sift through the therapist to see how you can get better help?
So that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. I'm one therapist that, and I think because I've been in the field for 25 years, right? Want to advise people that your whole goal of finding a therapist is to find someone that can help guide you, that can help you release or get relief from whatever is going on in your life, whether it's grief, whether it's loss, whether it's depression, anxiety, or an illness that you've been diagnosed with an illness yourself. You're looking for someone who's qualified, but that can also be a good support for you. So when you're talking about having a good support, I feel like, you know what, it doesn't matter what color they are or what race they are. You want them to relate to your story as an African, as a Black person. You want them to relate to your story as a person, human being that is struggling with a life issue, with life in itself. We are not for everyone, and every therapist is not for everyone. There's a good fit for everyone. And the good thing about therapy is you can always change, especially if you're paying for it cash or if you're using insurance. You can meet with a therapist one session and you just say, I don't know if I want to, see this person again. You make your appointment for the next session, and then you realize that I really didn't like her the way that approaching, I just didn't like her, because then let's listen to our gut. You have this gut feeling that just tells you, right? And you can cancel the session. You can email the therapist and says, I've decided not to pursue therapy. Our feelings are not hurt. Because then this field to make sure that you get connected with the right person that connects with you. And one of the things that we are also working with you is for you to be in charge of your life, to be in control of your life. And part of that, being able to say no and yes, and I like this or I don't like this. So if you do that, that's a win for us, because boom, okay, this person has got potential because they've been able to determine that, you know what, I'm not the right fit for them, and that's the next person for them. Yes, there's an advantage of working with me as a Black person. If you're a Black person, there's a big advantage because, yes, culturally, there's certain things that I can talk about and tap into, relate with you, and also help you to think of it and see it in a different way. That maybe somebody of another race might not be able to relate to that. So, there's that aspect as well. But, as of COVID, when COVID started, 4 years ago, there's a shortage of therapists, black, white. So there's a waiting list for many of the therapists. There are waiting lists that are there, which makes it, difficult for those that are just waiting for a black or a white or a Hispanic only, and yet they could start off the treatment with somebody else, and then you can always switch when there's space for therapy. We're also running a lot of group therapy these days. So if you can join in a group therapy, that's also good, because then you have like-minded people that are in the same group, and we're talking like we're doing, and we can relate. And as a professional, I'll be facilitating it, but it's always good to hear the stories and other people how they've done it. So group is also a way of accessing mental health therapy at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Actually, Hazel commented, she said, when I first wanted to find a therapist, I found a white lady. First sentence was, your English is really good for an African. Then we spent the rest of the hour, her asking me about Zimbabwe. And she says she's a people pleaser, so she stayed with her until she had no appointments open.
It's very inappropriate, because then you're paying to be there first, and for to talk about what's going on with you. And yes, people will be fascinated with our accent and what's going on. But what I want to encourage Hazel and everybody that's there, it's okay to say, ma'am, I would rather we focus on what brought me here. I hate to be rude, but we can always talk about my being Zimbabwean, another time. It's okay to redirect that session, because remember, now you are the patient, you are the client, right? We are working for you. So as I'm working for you, you have every right to tell me which way you want this session to go. So I would hate it for you to be, for you to be telling me about where you're from and in all of this, and then you haven't gotten anything out of the session. For me, I would feel bad, because then I want to start where you are, and I want to hear, how we can begin this journey of doing therapy together. So do not be afraid to redirect it, to end it. If it, the person does not want to stop, you can always end that session, and then, go back on, you can call the insurance. If you're here in the United States, or even in the countries where you are, if you have an insurance card, at the back of it, there's always a number, an 800 number. When you call that number, they can give you a list of therapists that are in your zip code, in your state, or, wherever area that you're at. Get at least, 4 or 5 names of therapists. You one, it doesn't work, and they're asking you about Zimbabwe. I'm not here, for you. So I can tell you about Zimbabwe. Hello. I mean, come on now.
How about you pay for this session and I'll tell you about Zimbabwe?
Exactly. So please feel free, to do that. And I mean, the experiences are really different and they're varying. So then I've also heard stories of people that say, listen, I went into therapy and the therapist was also telling me her story and say, oh, I went through the same thing. And then it was, all about her. I mean, we have to do that, because then that's the reason why we also seek therapy on our own, so we can talk about, us and our stories, rather than relay that, with the patient. Sometimes it's appropriate, but just for a small period, not to overtake the whole session.
As we get closer to coming to an end, Dr. Sam, what would you like to leave the audience with today? Because you gave us a lot of good nuggets. So what is it that final thing you would want to leave with everyone, that just to send it home?
In my country, in our country, we have this saying, "Chakafikidza dzimba matenda." And how do I translate it in English? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas is probably.
I have never thought that one.
Yes. What happens in your house, stays in the house, which is what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas, right?
In Vegas, yeah.
Uh, uh. It is time for us to understand that that saying always happens when people want to hide something, when people want us to, embrace or accept something that is unacceptable. It is time.
Yes.
I want us to normalize talking to someone. We are also having a high rate of divorces. People are breaking up and having divorces. There's no reason for us to lose our families and split our families at the high rate that is going because of communication issues, because of problems, people outgrow each other, because of children. And then if there's a death in the family and a couple loses a child, that's like, for most families, it's an automatic divorce because now they have this grief. So all of those things, warrants for us to be able to normalize talking to someone about what's going on. You'll be amazed at how much has happened in our childhood or in the previous lives that we carry with us. And it affects our present life, our present relationships, without us knowing that it's because of what I went through and experienced that now I have this guard that nobody else will do this to me, or this will never happen to me. And as you do that, you're actually allowing it to happen to you again, because now you're angry, you're mad, because you have not dealt with some issues that, you experienced in the past. So part of what we do is to help people talk about some of those experiences so that when faced today, it's a brand new life. For couples, we help bridge the gap, between the couples and say, okay, let's talk about what's going on and communicate. That's my goal in the couples counseling, that I do. One of the things that I also want to make sure that, I emphasize and encourage people is it's very confidential when you speak to a therapist. So even if I work with a Zimbabwean and I'm at a Zimbabwean event, I will be the first one to say, hi, how are you? And walk away and go some. Why is she ignoring me? It's not like, then, because then I don't want you to start saying, oh, remember what we said in that last session? I don't know what session you're talking about, because talk to you, I've never met you before. So it's very confidential when we do this kind of work. And everyone that does the work, we all have our hearts in the right place, even though, sometimes it doesn't work that way with every therapist. So please feel free to change and find a different therapist, if that doesn't work for you. And as I said, there is one that will work at some point, or another, but there's no reason why we should struggle with stress and going through the day with financial problems, or, green card problems, without having anyone else to talk to, because then we don't want people to talk about us. We don't want people to know that this is what I'm going through. So therapy is one way of talking to somebody who's private that can help you at least release them, but also talk about alternatives and resources, information of what else you can do to deal with situations.
Oh, Dr. Stem, I am so upset. Our time is running out.
I know. Wait. Well, we started late. So, I don't mind. I'll stay a few minutes. So here's the thing, right? For those people that have jobs, and you have a job, many people have not accessed, their benefits of Employee Assistance Program, EAP, Employee Assistance Program. So I encourage everyone who's here or who will listen to this afterwards to please, call the office at the main office and ask them what the EAP 800 number is. With the EAP, you get from 3 sessions to 25 or 30 free sessions where you don't pay a dime, depending on.
I didn't know this.
I can't say you're kidding, because every year I share this and there will be somebody who didn't know. So every company, they have this free information, because then we we have companies that buy them as a package with their with your
Oh.
health insurance. They have what we call an EAP, Employee Assistance Program. When you call that 800 number, it's open 24/7, 365 days a year. And we, as therapists, many of us are panels. You'll find us on those panels, right? So what they do is they will give you a list of all the, employee assistance professionals that are in your area again. And when you call them, when you call for an appointment, it's an appointment with your spouse. So let's say you have a package of 6 sessions, right? You get 6 sessions, your spouse gets his own 6 sessions, and then you and the family, will get another 6 sessions, and then you as a couple will get another 6 sessions. So we have about 24 sessions that you can access at one time, right? For one problem at a time. So let's say you call them and you say, I'm calling because I'm stressed out in my marriage and I need to talk to somebody. You get 6 sessions. And my husband needs to talk to somebody too, separately, 6 sessions. But then it's affecting our relationship, another 6 sessions. Get as a couple. But then we have a teenager that needs to talk to someone. You have 3 kids. Every kid will get their therapist for 6 sessions. So that's a benefit that you all have. Many people don't know that.
Yeah.
And after 6 sessions, you also can get renewed sessions now for a different reason. So the first time we came in because it was stress that was bothering us, right? Second time, I'm coming in now because my, mother-in-law is sick and we have an illness that we can't deal with, and we can't even go to Zimbabwe because they're all the way in Zimbabwe, so we have an illness. So for that, we have to talk about the illness and the stress that builds. So the reason is the illness, the mother-in-law. So you get another 6 sessions, 6 sessions, 6 sessions. So it's a very good benefit that helps those that have never been in counseling also experience counseling. Sessions, and then you go in and you talk to someone using those sessions for the EAP. And then so I always say to people, if let's say you get paid $20 an hour in your job, I said you're actually getting paid at least $40 an hour because they've paid this big bulk of sessions to access, and you've never accessed it, right? So that's a benefit that you need to use because they know. And that's why, if you have a job and you come to work and you're all stressed out and you have an attitude, they don't have tolerance for you with that attitude.
Right.
Because they're paying all this money for you to talk to Dr. Stem outside and Dr. Mary, over there, so that you can talk about what issues there. But when you come to work, we want you all ready to work and help out and be a team
on your P's and Q's.
So that's how it works. We're also members of psychologytoday.com, because people will say, well, where can I find? If you go on www.psychologytoday.com and other mental health websites, you'll be able to also see from state to state, city to city, different therapists there, and you can read a little bit of biography. Sometimes that helps to see a picture and to read a little biography before you call someone and say, I don't know if I like this one, I don't know if I like, and make a selection and a choice for that.
Musa Hazel would like to know, what states do you service?
I am licensed in Massachusetts and Florida, but I'm a cash only, so I service the whole world.
So no insurance.
There you go, Hazel.
Only, y'all.
I mean, I started, I think about 6 years ago, that's when I went, I went cash only, because then, after 20 years, I had served my time, and then, so those that come to me, they know that they're getting a seasoned therapist. Yeah. when you come in, we have real talk, because then we want to resolve solutions. We also want to make sure that you feel good after the sessions, and you know, you want to come back for another session and continue to feel good. I have people that will say, "Oh my God, I was waiting for this." I'm like, "No, you're not supposed to wait for this, because then you're supposed to live life, you know."
So those 6 sessions, by 6 by 6 by 6, you're not included in any of those, are you?
No, I don't do insurances anymore. So I don't even do the EAP, the free sessions, those free sessions anymore, because then and so here's what happens though. I'm still credentialed with many of the insurance, and I get to see you. I give you a bill that you can get reimbursed from the insurance.
Ah, okay.
They
Okay.
won't reimburse all the money that you have paid me, because then they reimburse you at the rate that they pay the insurance. So let's say you pay $150 for my session, and your insurance reimburses $50 or $60. That's what you're going to get, the $60.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
That's very useful to know.
yes.
Very, very useful to know.
Won't lose everything. You get partial, depending on the rate of the therapist that you see. That's a cash client. I mean, a cash therapist. You get reimbursed, partial, for that. I just saw somebody about Psychology Today magazine.
Oh, the
The articles
articles in the Psychology Today magazine are always fire.
Yeah, so reading is also a good thing. So some of the resources that I have channels on YouTube. I have a channel, Dr. STEM, Be Encouraged, on YouTube. I put a lot of free resources in there that people can really access and listen to, and also some videos in there that might be helpful as well whilst you're in waiting, or if you have not thought about receiving therapists. I also want to say, for us here in the United States, every beginning of the year, we go and see a medical doctor, and we do what we call a physical, which do a physical test on everything. I want to normalize mental, health physicals as well, where every year at the beginning of the year, in a year, whenever you are, that you have a session that you just call a therapist and say, you know what, I just want to do a session just to talk about life, and just do an assessment of where I am, what's going on with me, and how I can just move on and stuff. But I really don't have a that's going on. That's a good session right there. Because by the time that we finish, you realize that, oh, maybe this piece here, I was wondering, I was struggling with it, and that's a big relief. So, that you can get. So I want to encourage people to at least give them that gift, give yourself that gift of meeting with a therapist and just having that session that you talk, whether it's 1 session, 2 sessions, but give yourself that gift, of servicing your mind. It's almost like driving a car. If you're, 50 years, 60 years, and you've never seen a mental health therapist, do you know how much is in your mind, head, and everything that has never been dealt with, that you're just carrying on and on? And if it was a car, it would have clunked and crashed ago, because then the oil will be so dark, and it needs to repairs and stuff. That's with our minds. We've gone through a lot. People have gone through divorces, were raised in families that were difficult, and experience. Now that we're all overseas, everybody has a story of how they transitioned. Even if you were born here and you were born with parents that were from Zimbabwe, that clash of cultures, you're American and they're African, all needs to be sorted out and talked about. And then now you can have a mindset where, okay, I can be my own person. I can live a happy, free, and fearless life. And that's why I had connected and said, when you take care of your mental health, then you've built up your confidence. And when you're confident and able to speak for yourself, think and feel good, it's to be successful in anything and everything. It's career, business, or relationship. It's always easier when you have a good mindset and you're not struggling with anything else that you have, right? Yeah. So it,
Very,
Oh,
very
yeah.
true. Before we end, I want to do a little fun fact about Dr. Stem. Do you guys know Dr. Stem is actually a DJ? Dr. Stem, can you tell them where you DJ and what sort of music you DJ?
wow.
Actually my pride and joy. Remember, Doc, when you asked and you said, how would you convince people to, to get therapy, right? That's
Yeah.
another that I reach people. So I
Wow.
play gospel music. I'm a
I
DJ with gospel music.
love that.
Yeah, right now I'm playing with Flow Time Radio. It's Flow Time Radio, FLOWTYME radio.com. So every Sunday I'll do a live show with Flow Time Radio on Flow Time.
Oh,
And then on my YouTube, I have, it's called Let's Praise Him. Show. The show is called Let's Praise Him. So if you go on YouTube and go and put Dr. Stem, Let's Praise Him, you also hear all the shows that they have played, because then once we play it on Floor Time Live, you can listen to it for a week. And then now it goes onto my YouTube channel on, Let's Praise Him. But I love playing gospel music. And it was also my way of connecting with my people. So when I started it years ago, I used to only play Shona music, because then I wanted to keep up with the music and the Shona gospel, songs. So now it's a mixture of everything, gospel. But it's fun. It's fun. I love doing that.
that's awesome. See, now I have new music for my morning commute.
Yeah.
My morning commute is going to be it's going to be lit tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. So I'm pretty excited, but I do not want you to leave
Yeah.
without letting us know which it'll help myself, it'll help Tino and the audience. What do you do outside of work that helps you maintain a healthy, well-balanced life?
I do a lot. The music is one of those things that I do, to play gospel music. I love going to the ocean and just sit there and just, it's one of those things that I love doing. I love traveling. So you will see on my pages, 1 minute I'm in Jamaica, the next minute I'm, cruising somewhere in Puerto Rico. So I love doing, those things. And then I am also, very active in online church, Zimbabwean, churches, Anglican. So you'll see me in the Anglican groups. In there, I am ministering. I always, share the word in there as well. And I'm also going through different churches and speaking, in there. I know for people, they're like, well, but you're still working. But to me, that's not work, because it's almost like play, connecting with, with people. I do things like this here where I come on live and join other people. And I also have my own Dr. Stem show where I'm going to invite you guys to come in as guests as well.
Yes.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
So I'm going to invite you and anybody who's listening or who will be listening. I'm always looking for guests for the Dr. Stem Show. You know why? Because the Dr. Stem Show is an inspiration, motivation, encouragement show. So I put it as a platform for people to come and talk and just inspire others, but mostly to also have an opportunity to advertise their businesses. You never know and who's listening. So I'm always, sharing with that as well. So go check them out. I, subscribe to Dr. Stem Be Encouraged, the Dr. Stem Show, and also Let's Praise Him show. So those are the 3 channels on YouTube that you'll enjoy. So for tomorrow, when you're going on your trip tomorrow and driving to work, I want to, suggest that you listen to the first 5 books that I first wrote. The Power of Prayer, It's Time to Shift, Beyond the Tears, Bruised but Not Broken. They're all on YouTube in audio with me reading the whole book.
Oh.
Them on YouTube so people can listen to them, because then it's, you know what, it's not always about selling and having people buy, but it's about the message, encouraging people, and I'm like I said, I grew up in Kambuzuma, so my whole message is if I came from Kambuzuma, Muchiuti, and I'm here now, and I went through, and I'm doing what I'm doing, anybody else can do it, and everybody can do it. We just have to have the knowledge, the information, and the opportunities, and it. Yes, those are over there, and you can listen to those books there, and also pass them to other people and let them listen. Yeah, but I put them on there for people to listen, on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. Thank you so much, Dr. Stem, for coming today. We are forever grateful when people come on to give us their time, because we can only pay in love, in gratitude, in appreciation right now. But after,
You never know, right?
so we thank God that we have this opportunity to sit and to pick people's minds and get knowledge and share it with everyone else. We're gonna, when we post the live, we're gonna put all your information in there so people can reach you for services. And I'll also, if you can email me your phone number, the one we can post, and then people can call you. But we are so grateful. We're thankful for everyone that joined tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also press the follow button on our Instagram. Again, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great night.
Yeah.
Good night. Thank you, Dr. Stem.
Before you go, right, on my website,
yes,
www.drstemy.com, people actually book me for 30 minutes and just pick my brain for 30 minutes free session.
Nice. 30-minute free session, y'all, with Dr. Stem.
I'll put that link up too.
Yeah, so they're gonna have the 30 minutes free session in there. So it's on my website, www.drstemy.com. They can do that, and then, because then we can talk about resources and how they can utilize this services and everything as well, because I'm very resourceful. I've been in the country for a long time, so people can
this is awesome.
And I have a challenge that's coming up next Monday through Thursday. I'm doing it where I will be also sharing a lot of information about building confidence and accessing information. So if people want to join that, it's free. It's also on my website. They certainly can join and, join me live, or they can get the videos of what I'm talking about. It's great information, if I may say so. That would be helpful.
We believe you.
Biased at all.
Just talking to you right now, honestly, your spirit is light.
Yes.
You're inviting. You just want to continue on. If we could stay one of these days when we have our girl chat, please, if you can, just jump on where it's more people come in and talk, because you're just so inviting. You are a true speaker. You really truly are. This is who you are supposed to be.
Yeah,
honestly.
Let's do a Q&A as a follow-up for this, and people send you questions, and also can ask questions there. That way, I can also answer some questions. That would be a good one as well if you guys want me to do that. I will make time to come in and answer some questions. I worked with a lot of people also remember me for working with teenagers and parents. So up to people that have all this.
That is true.
Parents, and so I'm always open to that as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll send you an email and we can set something up.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.